Evening. Okay, good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties to the June 17th, 2021 meeting of Cohasset Conservation Committee. I'm Chris McFarland, Chairman of the Conservation Committee. We'll be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset Wetlands Protection Acts and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. We'll be operating this meeting using the Zoom platform. Any applicants will be elevated to participant at the beginning of each hearing. Anyone from the public wishes to comment, please enter your name, address, and comment into the chat box. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and hopefully at some point our interim agent, Steve Ivis. I'll now take a roll call of Conservation Commissioners and Associate Commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, present.
Okay. Trish Grady is absent this evening. Shay Pampari is absent this evening. Marianne Weatherald.
Present. Marianne Weatherald, present.
Chris McFarland is present. And Associate Commissioner Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Tonight we have a quorum of four voting commissioners. We'll be taking all votes via a roll call, with each commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. For the record and for the public, hearings for Lot 32 on Windy Hill, 808 Chief Justice Cushing Highway will not be heard tonight and will be continued until July 1st. Our first order of business this evening is to approve minutes from April 22nd and May 20th, 2021. I know that I made some comments to make some changes. I understand some other commissioners have. Has everyone else had an opportunity to look at the minutes and feel comfortable that we can approve such
Yes.
minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. We'll do each separately. First, the motion to approve the April 22nd, 2021 minutes.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion and a second to approve the April 22nd minutes, we're going to do a quick roll call. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Marianne Weatherall.
Marianne Weatherald, aye.
And Chris McFarland, aye. And do I hear a motion to approve the May 20th, 2021 minutes?
So moved.
Moved.
In a second?
Second.
Haven't heard a motion in a second. We'll roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Marianne Weatherall.
Marianne Weatherald, aye.
And Chris McFarland, aye. The minutes for April 22nd and for May 20th, 2021 are approved. Our first order of business this evening was a stormwater permit 2106 for 32 Windy Hill. This has been continued to July 1st, 2021. Time-wise, we're okay, so we're going to move on to our next order of business. The next order of business scheduled for 6:36 p.m. is show cause and enforcement at 83 Spring Street. This was continued from 6/3/21, our last meeting. May I ask that David Wan is promoted to panelist, please?
Certainly. And Steve Ivis has also just joined us.
Now joining us.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Mr. Wan,
And
The-
I believe I also have Jeff Hassett, engineer,
Okay,
who has worked on this case.
very good. So it's the commission's understanding that there is a DEP order of conditions for this project. Some work has been done at 83 Spring Street, and we'd just like to hear from the applicant as to the work that's been going on there and how it meets the order of conditions that the DEP has provided.
Thank you, Chris. This is Jeff Assett here with Morse Engineering, here with and on behalf of David Wan. So an order of conditions was issued for this project. The project involved the raise and reconstruction of a single family home that's on the property. And associated with that was installing utilities within the driveway. That is the work that was installed. There were conduits laid for a new gas service as well as underground electric and cable services. And that is in compliance with the plan that was approved. It was done following the DEP sign was posted, the erosion barrier was in place, and there was a pre-construction meeting with Jeff Summers. So to my understanding, the work was done in accordance with the permit. I also went to the property today and walked it, and I didn't see any evidence of work beyond the erosion barrier. So it looked like it was in good shape.
So Jeff, I think the concern that has been brought to the commission is the fact that the erosion barrier is just a staked wattle, and that the compacted road base, which was put back in to act as a driveway, seems to be kind of extending beyond the wattle. And so what we're trying to understand is what's going to keep that material from continuing to migrate into the wetland.
Sure. So some of the material it looked like was pushed up against the wattle, but not going over it. I would recommend basically hand raking the material back away from the wattle, right at the toe of the wattle.
And so that would be an ongoing maintenance.
Well, it's a gravel driveway. That's what was permitted.
Yeah.
I know we had the permitting of this project took several hearings, and we discussed other options like paving it or even pavers. We talked about doing mulch on the shoulders, but ultimately the mulch floats. The water level does rise in that area. It would ultimately float away. So this is what the commission at the time agreed on, was just a gravel driveway, and there is maintenance associated with a gravel driveway, certainly. We do call out conservation posts to be installed at 40 feet along the driveway on either side, so that would prevent any future future encroachments after that erosion barrier is removed. But yeah, I mean, so certainly there is maintenance with a gravel driveway.
If I may speak also to add what Jeff has just explained, I think Mr. Ivers has met with Greg Morse 2 weeks ago, a little more than 2 weeks ago, and explained the entire situation with the driveway and the work that we have done. As to the driveway extended, I just want to remind the Conservation Commission that my driveway is defined by trees and rocks planted along the driveway. The entire 330 feet of driveway is defined by trees planted there already. And you can't expand the driveway unless you chop down trees. And trees, I mean, from the root and put the driveway right over it. And none of that was done. No trees were cut. I asked Mr. Ibis what the width of the driveway was. He said 10 feet. It was 10 feet in 1950. It was 10 feet in 1999 when the last order was issued, and it is still 10 feet. My driveway is anywhere between 9 to 12 feet. It was like that all times, and no more extension was done. This is a fact. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not adding. It is just a simply fact. In 2016, when we were going through the purchase, the Morse Engineering, Jeff and Greg, has submitted excellent plans, understanding the problems that this driveway might cause. And I want all the commission, I don't know whether any of you had a chance to go and look at my file and read it through, try to understand what has been happening there. But just in case that, I mean, we are all busy. Just in case that you haven't done that, if you go and spend some time on my file, it would be so clear that there is no way the driveway would have been expanded, and also Jeff and Greg has suggested an excellent plan to prevent any kind of erosion, any kind of issue that we might have in the future. And 5 years later, and tens of thousands of dollars spent from my pocket, as well as the town of Cohasset pocket spent on the legal expenses, we are back to exactly the same point where we started in 2016. Jeff would tell you, and Greg would tell you, they knew this was going to happen. That's why they have suggested some very, very good plans. Those plans are still in the file. Mr. Ibis have read them finally. Now, we can talk about this over and over again for the next 20 years, but that is not going to solve the problem. I mean, I am more than willing to spend money to do jobs correctly. But whatever we did in December and January was within the order, and there is nothing else that we did that caused the expansion of the driveway or the erosion of what that has been happening there for decades in that place. And I would urge the Conservation Commission to think about what I just explained this to you. We can go back here over and over again for the same issue. But if you're really serious about resolving this erosion issue, we have 2 plans that we submitted. And incidentally, the second plan that we submitted was a 10 feet wide driveway. The first one was 12 feet wide driveway that involved some chopping of the trees. And the second plan was a 10 feet wide, exactly the same measure that Mr. Ibis came up with. It was 10 feet, it is 10 feet, and it will be 10 feet. Nothing that we have done was against the order or added into the order. We follow the order. I know the guy who did this job. He was an excellent guy, just incredible guy. Well done, job very, very well done.
Thank you, Mr. Wan. Appreciate it. Mr. Ivas, do you have information that you'd like to add to this?
Yes, two pieces of information. First of all, I don't believe that the existing driveway is the same driveway that is on the plan. And I think that the applicant should prove it very simply by having Morse go out there and put some stakes in on the driveway, the width of the plan, as it's shown on the plan. Number two, my suggestion for stabilizing the surface of the driveway and the sides is very simple. It's called rip-rap rock right along the edge of the driveway. And I'd like to stop it there and have Mr. Wan and Jeff respond, please. And in fact, one more thing, Greg Morse and I talked about that solution 2 weeks ago. And he said that he proposed it somewhere in the Conservation Commission process, and the commission said no. I think the commission was wrong at that time and is still wrong.
So that was the case. We talked about putting riprap on the shoulders. We went back and forth over all sorts of different options. And this is ultimately what the commission asked for. Just keep it as a gravel road. Don't place anything on the shoulders. So Mr. Wan is doing as he was instructed. I can tell you, I was out of the property today. I don't see any evidence of that driveway being widened. The erosion barrier appears to be placed at the tree line. And as Mr. Wan noted, the only way to widen this narrow driveway would be to clear trees. I don't see any evidence of that. I think to ask him to stake it out is an unnecessary cost.
And also, if I may also add one more thing. After we have finished the job, Jeff Summers and the building commissioner, both of them went out to the property and inspected the entire driveway and whatever the work that we have done. They have found no evidences of driveway being widened. It is exactly the same driveway. As I said, my driveway is defined by trees planted there. That, just keep that in mind.
Sir, I have a question for you. Who planted the trees? Who planted the trees?
That has been there, I don't know. That has been there probably for ages.
The house was built in 1955. We can only assume the driveway's been there since 1955.
Right. So those trees would be about 70 years old. Is that correct? If they were planted at that time?
Some of them are larger trees. Most of them are smaller, more sapling size.
Understood. And is the driveway not spreading between the trees? The trees don't line the driveway. That's the problem I have. The trees don't line it. In between the trees, the driveway is spreading. And that's why I'm looking for the staking. I think we should all go out there and take some tape and just go take a look. That's the next step.
I would be happy to do that.
So the other thing that we should mention is the approved plan specifies for Mr. Wan to prune trees to a width of 12 feet to provide 12 feet of clearance. And there is one tree that was called out to be removed in order to have that 12 feet of clearance. I don't believe that tree was even removed.
I'm not worried about the trees, Jeff. Not one bit. It's the gravel on the sides, and the erosion control is actually above the toe of the slope. That's the problem there. The erosion control should be at the toe of slope, not above the toe of the slope, and very easily demonstrated with a site visit by everyone that's interested. Very easily demonstrated.
I would welcome that, but I would also would like to respond to that comment, Jeff Summers know this property very, very well. He saw the property driveway before the construction, before the driveway was dug out, and he saw it afterward. And he found no evidence of driveway being widened. You can't make the driveway that was 9 feet to 10 feet. You can't do that because it is the trees that defined my driveway. And whatever that was in between the trees was what was there before. It is not like I created that. I fill those spaces with the dirt. There were dirt there already.
It's actually not dirt or soil, as the soil scientists will say. It's actually larger gravel, up to 1 inch or so in width. Jeff, did you notice the erosion controls above the toe of the slope? That's my one question to you.
Yeah, but I don't follow the issue with that because the barrier was put more so at the top of the slope in many areas, which would prohibit the driveway from being widened. And I don't see
And
the
also,
issue.
if you look at the plan, the third plan that was approved by DEP, it does say to be pairing if the driveway if there are some problems with the driveway. And whatever we did there is what the permit says to do.
Would it be okay if I shared a photograph that I took of the driveway from today?
Please.
Yes, please, Jeff.
Oh, I'm getting a message. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
I'm fixing that now. I'm sorry.
Laura will fix it for you.
Yes, that's why I'm here. There you are.
Okay.
Jeff, do you have a photograph of that stretch 5 years ago, please?
Not readily available.
Okay, because to me, there is a remarkable difference in improvement in height and in width of what I see compared to what I saw when I first was introduced to this project 3 years ago. Jeff Summers told me before he left 2 things had happened. Clearly, trees had been cut down. There are stumps present where they've been cut down, and that the driveway has been widened. Jeff told me that. Now, I don't know what evidence you have about Jeff saying it's perfect, but that certainly is not what he told me. And we can go on forever. I think we need to have a visit here, and we need to have Mr. Ivis and Mr. Hassett take us through and look and see what we have there now and discuss it in situ. All right.
Because I still think that it should be staked as, I'm sorry, forgive me. I still think it should be staked as shown on the plan, and then we will have no problem understanding what the problem is.
That's fine. The solution to the problem is not looking at photographs unless we have a thorough file going back into history. We need to go out there, as Mr. Ivis has said, and look at what we have at hand, touch it, feel it, and have a proper discussion there. Or maybe not discussion, presentation of what the situation is properly staked.
I do not want to be I do not want to throw cold water in the discussion, but I did speak with Jeff as well, but Jeff never mentioned that the driveway was widened. Jeff told me that he has no problem with what the work has been done. He didn't see any way the driveway being widened because I didn't mention that to him specifically, and he didn't see any evidence of that either. So that Mr. Eisenhower, I don't know why your information and my information are different, but I would welcome you to the property. Let's go over.
That's exactly what I'm proposing, what Mr. Ivis proposed. I suggest we resolve this right now, Mr. Chairman, by scheduling a site visit, and then we go through the analysis, unless you see another way, Chris.
No, I think the site visit is a good idea. Mr. Ivas is recommending some staking. I understand that there's a cost involved with that. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe the whole 300 feet doesn't have to be done. Can we do a you know, do you think maybe a section, Steve? Is there a section in particular? Or
I would like to suggest the section in the center area. So if you divide the 300 by 2, you get 150, and you go 50 feet to both sides of that, 150. How's that? Something on that order.
Mr. Wan and Jeff, is that possible?
I hope that Jeff understood what Mr. Ivas said.
So it's, Mr. Ivas, you would like to see 150 feet of the driveway staked out on either side?
No, 100 feet.
100
50 feet on either side of the center.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
So 100 feet, so 50 feet on each side.
Of the
Sure.
center, yes.
And if we take
From the center.
if we take the stream as a center line, then we can start at the stream and go both ways. How's that?
I don't see any reason we can't do that.
Okay.
Mr. Ivas.
And can we, I'm sorry, Eric, can I see if we can get a date? Can we get a date decided
Sorry.
on before we do that?
Okay.
Mr. Wan, is there a, is it possible that either, sorry, I just lost Mr. Ivas. I know he's here just a couple days a week. I know Tuesday is one of them. Jeff, can we do a week from Tuesday?
Meaning June 29th?
I'm sorry, I don't have a calendar in front of me. 1 second.
Good.
So,
Could we fit it in next week?
well, you'd have to get it staked by then. Can that work?
Yeah, we'll take care of it. I don't.
Let me see what day. Steve, what days are you in Cohasset next week?
Tuesday, the 22nd, and Thursday, the 24th, until about 3 o'clock.
Can we do the 24th? Jeff, can you have it done by the 24th?
I can. I'm available.
Okay.
And can we say, can we do it in the morning, 9 a.m.?
Fine with me.
9 a.m. works.
Okay, so we're going to do a site visit at 9 a.m. on 6/24, Thursday.
Can I make a comment here or ask a question of Jeff Hassett?
Yes,
Jeff,
please.
would there be a significant cost difference between staking the entire driveway versus 100 feet of it?
Yeah.
A significant difference. We're talking about, 300 feet versus 100 feet here. I mean, by the time you're mobilized out there and putting in, half a dozen or a dozen more pegs, is that going to be a burden? My thought about this is that if we get out there and the whole thing's not pegged, there might still be something that's unresolved. And it just seems like once you're out there, you might as well peg it from one end to the other.
It's not 300 feet, it's a 600 feet. Well, actually, it's almost to 700 feet.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 300 feet. That's what I heard Steve say, but
303 feet both ways. So that's
yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had the number wrong.
I mean, I just hate to go out there and that we have some conversation about something that's outside of this staked area, and we have to start all over again. It just it seems like we're constrained here.
Tom, I'd be happy to hand out measuring tapes.
Yeah, I'll bring one.
Okay.
But without a an instrument, getting the azimuths might be a little tough, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
far better to have a licensed surveyor actually do the staking than than me.
From the plan, I would agree entirely, yes.
Yeah. So,
So what do we do?
I don't know whether anybody feels like we should require that, but it just seems like common sense that if you're going to survey something, you've got your survey instrument and surveyor out there, why not just shoot the whole thing? So that it just puts it to rest.
I would be very interested in probably having the whole thing done right now. We don't want to have to come back and redo this.
Right.
And we're not talking about a large sum of money in relation to the value of what's been spent and will be spent on this property in the future. It's part of the cost of business to me. So we do the whole thing? Is that proposed? Agreed? Chris? What do you think?
Well, it sounds like the commission has requested it by a majority. So Jeff, can we plan on doing that, please?
Yeah, we'll do the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, Steve?
Yes.
One final point before we move on. I have seen many photographs of this, what I'm looking at right now, done in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years as this project is developed. Could we go back into your files and look at some of the photographs going back 3 or 4 years? Because I distinctly remember this being much narrower than what I'm looking at now. And I'd like to see the historical file and get it and see if that's correct or not.
Eric, thank you very much for that suggestion. As I would. I just today got access to some of Jeff's old files, literally just this afternoon. I believe there are some photos. There's a huge photo gallery. I don't know, it's 100 or a few hundreds of megabytes worth of photos in there. I will on Tuesday go look for the photo of this type. Hello, dog.
Is that you, Steve?
No, that's not me.
I think maybe Angela can help also look at those files, because I remember walking this property myself, and it was a cow path.
Yeah.
At one point, with a center lane through it, and it was much narrower, and this looks very much wider. I understand that DEP has its order of conditions, but it does look wider than it was.
I might also add as to your perception. The old driveway was kind of a dark brown color. Now what is on top of there is white. White people perceive white as being wider, but it is not. It's not. I mean, we will all have the measuring tape and measure it, but it will be exactly the same size.
That's fine.
So if I may, years ago when we were first permitting this project, there was some overgrowth kind of overtaking the driveway. In the approved plan specifically noted to prune back that vegetation to provide 12 feet of width. I didn't take any measurements when I was out here. I just quickly drove in and walked it. And but what I'm looking at here is about the narrowest driveway I would want to take my vehicle down.
Okay. But Jeff, you would agree there was no authorization to cut down any trees.
I didn't see any evidence of any trees being taken down.
There was no trees cut down.
If we find stumps in the ground, that will indicate that someone has not followed the authorized plan, right?
Of course.
Mr. Eisenhower, the stump that you saw there as you go in on the right side, about 100 feet into it, if you look at the stump, inside of the stump, there is a huge hole there. Jeff Summer, I mentioned it to Jeff Summer, and Jeff gave me the permission to tuck it down because that was coming off. There was a tree right next to it, lightning stroke, and the tree fell down, very healthy tree fell down. And I said, look at that tree that has a huge hole inside. So I didn't take the entire root out, but I just chopped it as, probably I left it about a foot above the ground. So still that tree, the stump that is there, that defines the driveway. It is not widened.
Okay, we'll see.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, we've come to the conclusion on this that we're going to mark this driveway and we're going to go see it on June 24th at 9 a.m. So we can all take a good look at it.
Yep.
Correct.
And by the way, you should all realize that the driveway width does change over the length of the driveway. So please just be aware of that. And you may want to take a look at the plan as well. I remember the plan very well when Greg and I looked at it together. And I said, oh, look at this. The driveway is a little wider than 10 feet here. It may be a little bit narrower than 10 feet here. Okay. So just
The driveway has always been between 9 and 12 feet.
Fine. I can believe that. Yes, sir. I believe that.
Yes.
And so we'll look at the plan and we'll look at the driveway and then we'll look at the condition of the slope of the sides, sir. I believe that is my biggest concern. The trees aren't my concern. This is a wetland. Trees will grow back. But the driveway will take over the wetland if allowed to continue like it is without stabilization, in my opinion.
Mr. Wan, we're all set to have this meeting on site Thursday, 24th. You mentioned that there was a third plan, the one that the DEP issued an order of conditions on. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes.
So does the conservation agent have that plan?
Yes. Mr. Ivers has seen the plan.
Does he have a copy of it?
I do not know. What is the date of the plan? And we'll find out. We'll make sure.
It is in December of 2016. It's the third draft that was submitted in December.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
That's the plan that I have, 12/7/16.
12/7/16. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the one that DEP ruled on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's called the plan of record, Mr. Wan.
Excuse me, could I just interject for a minute?
Yes,
I just might suggest, I just know how many files that we have and I know how big the files were to send to Mr. Ivas. So I don't want to fault Mr. Ivas in case he finds one that's a different version. I would just suggest that if the applicant could just resubmit the plan to make sure we're all on the same page, I think that might help everyone involved.
Lauren, thank you kindly.
Just a mild suggestion. Thank you.
No, that's great. That's a great suggestion.
Can that be posted to the shared folder?
I don't know how to do that yet.
Angela can help you do that, please, Mr. Ivas.
Okay, very good. But I need to have that sent to Angela then.
Yeah,
Jeff, can you
I'll
do
email
that?
it to Angela tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wan. Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you very much for
Great.
hearing
Thank you.
us.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's rain or shine, right?
Rain or shine. Okay. Our next hearing this evening is a RDA 21-07 at 559 Jerusalem Road for landscaping repairs. This was continued from June 3rd. Laura, we need to bring Amy Martin on. And I also believe I think I saw the homeowner.
What is the name of the homeowner?
Jane Cringdon.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And then Mr. Wan and Jeff can,
I'll put them back to attendees.
okay. Okay, Ms. Cringdon or Ms. Martin, would you like to tell us about your project, please?
Yes, this is Amy Martin of Amy Martin Landscape Design. I don't see myself there.
You can be heard. We don't see, now we see you.
Now we see you.
So as I said, this is Amy Martin of Amy Martin Landscape Design, working with Jane and Joe Cringdon. And we would like to present our plan to make some repairs and some updates to their property at 559 Jerusalem Road. Does everyone have the updated plan, landscape plan?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's dated the 15th, Amy?
I have June 3rd, the 21st, or June 3rd.
There was one that we just sent today.
Yeah.
Did everybody get that?
It's kind of late.
That was
Amy, I have one that came on the 15th.
okay. That's fine. There was a request by Jeff Hassett to make a correction to the color of one of our lines, and the labeling was off. So it was a very minor thing. So I think that everyone has the, an accurate plan of what our landscape improvements are. This is my first time doing this on Zoom, so I somehow thought there would be a visualization of the plan that we could look at and refer to, but
well, there might be. Laura, do you have access to the OneDrive?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't have access to the conservation OneDrive.
okay. I just have.
Steve, is there any way you can share a file, Steve?
It wasn't put on the OneDrive. I saw it in email only. I'm sorry. I'm still not fun. I'm not having a good time with the OneDrive. To me,
Okay.
It's a terrible system.
Oh, excuse me. Jeff Hassett is back in attendees, but he says he has the plan. So he can share it. I'm going to bring him back to panelists.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Right.
There is a plan dated the 15th of June, all right, which seems up to date, which is on the OneDrive. I'm looking at it right now. It looks the same thing. Sorry, that's it.
Wonderful.
There we go. Let me know if you'd like me to zoom in on anything.
I could also use, oh, maybe I can't here. I'm used to zooming, but not this way, because usually I can use my cursor and highlight things and such, but I don't, when I go up to view options, I don't see that as an option. So I will just try to describe it accurately.
Okay.
So this house is a new house that was built on a historic property, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. It used to be the parking lot to the Black Rock Hotel. And a developer a few years ago developed it. I mean, he built a beautiful house, and it was a very awkward site because there are existing concrete walls and stone walls and, hardscapes, for lack of a better word, that the landscape and the home are trying to work with. A lot of them are getting old and crumbling. So what our goal was for this property was to basically kind of repair and shore up some of these walls that are with their age. If you go to the left-hand side of the plan, there's a green L shape, which is an existing retaining wall, and that continues around. There's also a gray one just below that in the drawing. So what we want to do there's one point where it's crumbling, and we want to, from above the wall with an excavator, dig out this crumbling part and do a new corner. The rest of the walls, we really just want to skim coat and put a granite cap on them to improve their appearance and to make them just more sturdy for the coming years. The area between those two walls that has the black and white speckle appearance is an existing pea stone patio. And we are wanting to put a little wood burning fire pit in there and put a little bench in. So it's just another little, you know, sitting area away from the wind, where they can have some nice times outdoors.
Amy, you should note that to the commission that in order to put the bench in, you may need to do some rock work.
Yes, there is some ledge there, and we just want to probably jackhammer it from 2 feet to 1 foot, just so we can have a carpenter build a bench over that. So if you can see where those, that rectangular shape is up against the wall, that's what we wanted to build a bench on. And we just want, there's ledge underneath that the concrete wall was poured onto. And we just want to shave it down about 1 foot so we can put a bench in.
Amy, I'm speaking about section 5 where it says, I noticed your plan has numbers on it. It's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Can you reference it by numbers? When it might be easier.
It would be.
Zoom in there, please.
This is so tiny, I can't see my numbers. So let me,
Jeff's gonna try to zoom in.
okay,
I think we're talking about section 5.
okay.
And you're saying you want to remove 1 foot of ledge with a jackhammer.
Yes.
Did we lose Jeff?
Hey, Chris, no, I'm still here. I'm actually having trouble
Oh.
bringing up that plan on my screen now.
Okay.
Oh, I thought this was your screen.
But actually see it, I'd opened up another file.
Oh.
Okay, there we go.
So,
Jeff, can you use your cursor to kind of show the area of the bench, please, and the ledge that has to be removed? Because people can see your cursor.
Okay. So yeah, we did the existing conditions plan for this project, but I'm not so familiar with the proposed work. So Amy, if you could maybe direct me.
yeah, definitely. Well, your cursor is very close. It's just that rectangular shape that's, yes.
Oh,
it's,
there it is.
yeah. So there's just some ledge under there. That's, like I said, it's maybe 2 feet high, and we just want to shave it down to 1 foot high so that we can just build a bench over that area. And so that would require just, I don't know how much time it will take, but just a jackhammer to just knock it down a little bit. It's very minimal compared to, I'm sure, the body of ledge.
So, Amy, if I understand correctly, you want to tackle the ledge, lowering about 1 foot with a jackhammer throughout that whole area there. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, it's just the space underneath this proposed bench. So it's a very small space. It's probably 1.5 feet deep and maybe 5 feet long. And
Right, it doesn't take up the entire space under the bench. That's correct. I would agree with that, Amy. And you're about right, 5 by 1.
Yeah, so it's very minimal.
The speckled material there that in front of the bench is what material?
That's existing pea stone. It's an existing pea stone patio.
Right.
So Marianne made a really good point, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go by the numbers that I did in a very organized way. Actually, I did. I started with number 1, which is repair and skim coat the collapsing concrete walls. Is there any chance we can zoom in a little bit more? Oh,
Yep.
that's
Submit.
great. Thank you. Number 2 says new granite cap, 12 inches wide, wanting to cap all of these walls to make them more attractive and to reinforce them because they're certainly cracking and crumbling on the top. Number 3, there is an existing fence on the top of that wall, but it's just a little temporary one that you buy at Lowe's that you sort of just hammer into the ground. And we feel like it's not really safe enough for people who are in that area. So we wanted to replace it with a cedar fence that's 3 feet high, just as a safety precaution.
And how would that be affixed to the ground, Amy?
It would be like any cedar post fence. So we would, well, I'd see what the fencing contractor wanted to do. Normally we don't do a concrete, we don't concrete around the base of the post. I think we just want to see what's in there when we start digging to install the fence. It's behind the wall. It's inside of that pea stone area.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions so far?
So is there a cap on that wall as well?
There will be. We're proposing to cap both of these walls.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gray, but then we had added a plant bed and that's why they now look green.
I'm not clear what I'm sorry, I have a cold. I'm not clear with what you mean by a cap. Like, can you describe that?
Cap, yes, a cap on a wall. Is it, are you familiar with like a granite tread that goes on a stairway, or a bluestone tread that goes on a stairway, an exterior stairway? So it's usually an 1.5 inches thick, maybe 2 inches. And it's just a slab of stone. And there's 2 kinds of stone retaining walls. There's ones that have a cap, which gives it it's a linear 12 inches deep and maybe 3 feet wide piece of stone that's mortared on the top of a stone wall to give it a perfectly smooth, very sturdy top, as opposed to a stone wall that might have more of a lumpy, because it's just the stone and then there's the mortar stuck between the stones.
Okay.
So that's
a smooth finish on top of your stone wall.
Yeah. So these are actually concrete walls. So again, we're doing this to help kind of glue the crumbly bits of the top of the wall together and to give it a nicer appearance. So there's no digging involved with any of that. We're just mortaring stone on top of an existing concrete wall. So the only thing that needs to have some digging is just that one corner where number 1 is pointing to. It's a little behind that. There's one, and I believe we submitted a photograph of that particular corner that was crumbling.
Okay.
Should I keep going?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Number 4 is the stone fire pit. So again, we're just going to do like a New England fieldstone mortared structure. It will probably be like a fire pit kit that we will veneer with stone, and it's just for a wood burning fire pit so that they can have fires there. Any questions about that?
No.
Number 5 is install the cedar bench, which I already described, just wanting to jackhammer that slice of ledge off so that we can get that in there. and then have a carpenter install the bench. Number 6, we would like to install a sculpture here. These homeowners are art lovers, and we wanted to, we felt like this was a pretty safe place to do something like that. And so we're proposing like a maybe 7-8 foot tall stone sculpture. And we just want to make a concrete footing, a base for that. We don't know yet how the artist would attach it, but we know that it's going to need a concrete base that would probably be about 3 foot by 3 foot.
Okay.
Number 7, we are now looking at the driveway. This is a really large driveway because it was part of the driveway to the historical parking lot for the hotel. So if you could just scroll a little bit down, Jeff. Thank you. Notice this, this skipping pen pattern on the lower right-hand side of the driveway. That's the width of the existing driveway. It's basically a double width, and we don't feel like that's necessary, so we want to remove that part of the driveway and turn that into a planting bed. So we're reducing the driveway down to 16-foot width. There is an existing cobblestone apron there. We will also be removing part of that. As number 7 points out, there is an old concrete curb at the edge of this driveway. And this again is from this very old parking lot. It doesn't look residential. It looks commercial. It doesn't fit with the style, and we would like to remove this and replace it with a cobblestone border. So throughout this driveway, which is crushed stone and will continue to be crushed stone, we want to basically soften it. It's just a massive parking lot feel. And so we feel by bordering it with cobblestone instead of this concrete curb, it will have a much more residential, charming look. They also have had some, it's a pretty steep driveway, and so sometimes the gravel, the wheels can spin a little, and so we've proposed to give them a little traction and to also break up this massive space with some cobblestone treads that start down at the apron and they flow up into the 2 parking spaces. We also are proposing a cobblestone apron outside of the garage. And this is outside of the 100-foot buffer, but we have a little landing at the bottom of the stairs, and this is an additional parking area that we would like to also cobblestone, and you can see half of that is outside of the 100-foot buffer. So we're shrinking the size of the driveway, and we're just giving it a more appealing look, and it still is very permeable. Any questions about that?
So you say you're shrinking. What is the actual
Square footage?
square footage?
Yes, we're removing, thank you, Jeff. We're removing 238 square feet of existing driveway, number 10.
But you're adding the 350 in the cobblestone area?
That's already driveway.
Okay.
It has a cobble edge on it now. We just wanted to fill it with cobblestone again to try to make it not feel like an industrial parking lot, but to, make it feel like a residential, charming seaside home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Amy, do you think the tree at the bottom of the driveway will survive after you remove the 238 square feet of existing driveway?
Yeah, well, so there's some questions about that tree anyway. I guess it's been struggling for a long time. It doesn't look super healthy, but the homeowner said that it actually looks better this year than it has. So the driveway is just crushed stone. So it's not like we're tearing out asphalt or concrete or anything that would disturb its root system. So we will just be carefully removing that and removing the base of crushed stone and changing it over to soil. So it will actually benefit the tree. And then we have.
What type of tree is it?
This is very embarrassing, but I don't know.
Oh, it's a locust.
White trees, right? Steve, you know what it was?
It's a locust. It's a very, very big locust, yes.
It was not a very healthy looking locust.
Not sure if it's black or honey, frankly.
Oh, it's black, because honey would never look that coarse.
Okay.
So I would guess that then it's a black locust.
Sure.
That's my opinion. And then around it, we've put bayberry, which is a native shrub, very tough, very salt tolerant, in an arc. And actually, we're putting another tree in this space. There's an existing large one, but we're going to put a little Cercis canadensis in there.
Why a little one? Why not a big one, Amy?
Because of the root system of the existing tree. And Cercis canadensis, the red buds, they don't get big anyway, and you wouldn't start with a big one. It would be too hard to get it to establish itself underneath the big guy.
Amy, would you prefer this locust tree to be gone?
I have mixed feelings, and I think so does the homeowner. I think it's going to be really naked without it, and so I think we're more inclined to let's try to help it recover by giving it real soil and some fertilizer, and let's see what we can do with it, because it really helps soften. Because this I don't know if you've seen the property, but this driveway arcs up quite strongly, and then the house is up on this, you know, I don't know how many feet above the road, but it's really almost looming, and this large tree really helps to kind of soften that.
Right. No, we know this property.
This large, rather nasty, invasive tree that has relatively poisonous fruits and things like that, that we spend a lot of time getting rid of, and properties along Straits Pond. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Steve Ivis knows the history behind this. We
Yes,
had another
indeed.
project very close where we spent a lot of time, a lot of conservation effort to eliminate the black locusts. And, you know, at some point it's a brittle, it's not a long living tree. At some point the owners are going to have to bite the bullet and do some proper, what I would call landscaping here, with healthy native trees suitable for this environment. That's my feeling, but it's not my money and it's not my property. So.
And as for me, I think Amy is correct, and it's completely softens the area. And if it indeed dies within the next 4 or 5 years, then I'm sure the property owners will put something else in that's completely native.
yeah, they've definitely contemplated that. So, okay, so I think.
Can we move on?
We
Yeah.
just jump over to the concrete wall with this in the 50, and that you're skim coating it with concrete. Can you tell me about that material that you're using, because you're in the 50?
Yeah, it's just it's sort of like a watered, I mean, I'm not a mason, and I might not be using the correct terms, but to me, it's like a watered down concrete that they apply to the concrete wall. It's very similar to stucco. So it's just, you know, they would probably have they would just have the material mixed up and they pick up their little trowel and they just swirl it on top of it and smooth it out and it dries on.
Do you know what it's made of or what the chemical
Yeah, it's just, I think it's Portland cement or something. I don't know exactly, but it's just concrete. It's just a very thin coat. They call it the skim coat.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do
I
we
think
have
a fence is
Steve
allowed in the
address
50-foot buffer zone because it's considered a protective barrier. I think I can't find the number. I can't find the wetland rules and regulations, but I think a fence is allowed.
It is.
All right.
Chairman, could we have the agent address the conservation issues in this plan so we can, because a
Well,
lot of this is just what I call landscaping.
Eric, can we just have her quickly finish the rest of the plan so we kind of keep on
Yeah,
on track
you.
here?
And then we'll come right back to that. So we did jump a little bit out of my numbered routine here. I think the thing left is to talk about number 9, which is there is an existing little bluestone patio here. We want to reset it. It wasn't really done properly. And we want to expand it by 135 square feet. And it currently goes right up against this retaining wall, which is very high. I think it's probably 7 feet above that pea stone patio. So I want to move the patio, the bluestone patio over to the right, and I've made a little plant bed of grasses there, just to keep people away from that edge. And there's a honey locust tree that was already existing that I want to transplant back there. Again, I'm trying to just make a buffer there so people don't fall off of that steep wall. I think I've maybe, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, oh yeah, zooming out again and I can kind of catch up with my numbers.
Amy, number 11 to the right and upper area.
Thank you. Okay, if we could scooch over to the right upper, Jeff. Thank you. So this area in the back, there is an existing stone wall that is crumbling severely. Again, we sent images when we originally sent all of this in. So I am proposing to repair that existing wall foundation, and there are some stone steps that are also really not in great shape, and I would like to use granite steps here so that it can help hold up. This is a very steep little bank right here. And I feel like having the solid granite steps will really hold this. And it's also the way that they walk out of their back door, which is this gray rectangle, and down the steps to their backyard. So I want that to be safe and secured. And I feel like that's a really substantial way to hold all of that in. So we'll have to get those steps over there, and we're going to drive the Bobcat over the right-hand side of it, over this lawn, and deliver them from there. So we're not bringing any machinery, really even, just barely into the 100-foot buffer there, just to deliver those and get them installed. Any questions there? Okay, Jeff, would you mind zooming out? And Steve, do you have any other numbers that I've missed?
I don't believe so, Amy.
Okay.
So next to the set of stairs that you just addressed, are all those
Yeah.
rhombus shapes? Are those all existing?
Those are all existing stairs. Yep. And they're in fine shape.
Okay. And as well, the ones out by the water and the stairs out by the closer to the water?
They're okay. I wouldn't, I'm not going to touch them. They're a mess. All of these walls are poorly made, but they're not falling apart. And we're just staying away from all of that. Just to start the conversation that Eric Eisenhower was bringing up as far as the conservation issues here, this property is a little odd because it is on the it's on Straits Pond, but it doesn't have any property that goes down to it. So there, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind zooming out a little bit, you can see their property line here, and the water is way down here. It's not even on their property. And the neighbors have, sorry, the homeowner, Jane, is texting me to comment that those rhombus shapes are the old pillars to the hotel. Those dark, those are the old pillars that are part of that structure. Thank you, Jane. So basically, one of the things that Steve Ivas said right away is this homeowner needs to deal with the Japanese knotweed. And we visited the site together because the homeowner explained that she has been really vigilant about managing it and mowing it down and taking it out of the any place where it starts. So, and indeed, when we followed the property line, they had been really taking great care of it. It's the abutters who have let the knotweed grow.
I would agree with that entirely.
Yeah, Amy, could you just describe where the property line is? Because I'm looking at an aerial photograph. I see a very large lawn area between the house that we're talking and Straits Pond. I assume that's not their property?
Exactly. It's a very oddly shaped. You can see how it's like there's this little rectangle, but very little of that is their property.
Okay.
And in fact, it's actually two property owners. You can see the mowing of the lawns by separate landscapers on that lawn. It's really interesting. And then you have the two lawns from the two property owners. And then you have further closer to the pond, you have a huge stand of Phragmites.
Yep.
That's what's there, which is very interesting. I was stunned in terms of, the relationships between the lawn, the two owners of the lawn and this property. It's just the way the assessors maps work out.
Yeah. So this is not the property that has the goats.
It's next door.
That's right. Right.
And I think that they share the goats with these homeowners some, so that it helps. Because if we were to look at the whole property, which we're not, because it extends far off to the right in a very strange shape, the neighbors have their goats managing the different invasives throughout that area. So they kind of share their goats.
Amy, is this the most current plan?
Yes.
Okay, so the one that we had, which had hydrangea on the wall, is not correct?
Oh, actually, I apologize. You're right. That one is the most updated, and that is correct. When we were there, when Jane Cringdon and Steve Ivas and I walked the property, she was saying that the walls are so just sparse, and the neighbor is hoping to, they don't like looking at it because it's pretty ugly. So There's already climbing hydrangeas on, I so wish I could use my cursor. There's a wall. Yeah, there's a wall. This is, yes, right. So stay right there, please. So it says there's this wall that's above, in the plan view, above that existing ligustrum hedge. Yes, exactly. So that whole area is filled with climbing hydrangeas, and they're climbing up this very high wall, softening it a lot. This whole place, you know, kind of, without softening it, almost looks like, you know, an army barracks or something with all these walls. And so we're wanting to soften a little more of that with those climbing hydrangeas on those spaces. They're not natives, but it's really tricky to find a vine. They're not invasive, but it's hard to find a vine that's going to adhere to the wall and not just grow crazy, you know, like an ivy or something. So that's why we're proposing the climbing hydrangea. It's very easy to manage. It won't creep out into the lawn and make a mess. It's easy to keep it just growing on those walls.
But it does sucker to the wall, does it not?
Exactly. That's why we chose it.
Which is something you really don't want to do if you're going to try to repair these walls and keep them in repair.
Well,
the commission really kind of has a policy that in the 50-foot buffer that we don't use anything but native plants. So I mean, there are vines. No, I'm not a fan of the ivies that actually do even more damage than the hydrangeas. But there are some other vines that you could look into on there. Do
you have any ideas for that?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
It's not in the 50-foot, is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
The only one that I can think of is Parthenocissus quinquefolia.
Yes.
And that's the only one I can think of.
But it's also incredibly rampant, and it would grow into the grass.
Yes.
And you'd have to be cutting that back all the time.
That's correct.
So
that's absolutely correct.
I don't know of any vine that would do this that, you know, is really manageable like this. And since there are existing ones there and they're not invasive, but so if you decide that we can't do that, then we just wouldn't do it because there really isn't an alternative.
Okay. Well, this is a policy of the Conservation Commission, so unfortunately we can't give, you know, this is not a case where we can.
Okay. Understood.
Offer you a something that we can't offer anyone else. So.
Got it. Okay.
Now, can I ask? I'm going to ask Jeff. I'm going to ask Amy. I'm going to ask Steve. Has anyone looked into the order of condition that was previously on this property?
Negative.
I believe a certificate of compliance was issued for it.
Well, we're gonna need to know for sure that that's the case.
I missed that. I was trying to get my audio to work. This is Jane. What is that question?
Sorry, Jane. This property has come before the Conservation Commission before.
Yeah, I know.
And so there would have been at that time an order of conditions, and I asked that someone provide a certificate of compliance that's already been taken care of before kind of this ruling kind of goes into effect on top.
So we bought it from someone. So we have to take care of his order of conditions?
Yes,
Chris, we requested a certificate of compliance back in February 2019.
Okay.
I'm 99.9% confident that was approved.
Well, we'll just, I mean, before any work gets done, we'll just have to make sure that's been approved. That's all.
So where would we get that?
Angela should be able to find that for you.
If it's available at the town hall, yes.
And Amy, if you don't mind, as far as the climbing hydrangea,
Yes.
And I know I'm being pushy, but if all my neighbors have them within 100 feet and I already have them existing within 100 feet, and we have a cement parking lot that's probably was built in the 60s or the 50s or the 40s, that's such an incredible eyesore for the neighbors and anybody across Straits Pond. I'm just confused about why everybody else has them.
Well, because they didn't come in front of us for, with an application for a permit. So, I mean, that's the difference.
So we did the right thing and then we get penalized.
No, you're not being penalized.
Well,
Penalized would be that I'm actually initiating something that would be unfair to you. But it would be fair to someone else, and that's not the case. What I'm trying to do is we have a set of rules and regulations, and one of the regulations is that within the 50-foot buffer, we cannot prove planting that is not of native species.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because what we're going to do is going to be a lot better than what's there now. I would think it would make the bank stronger, make it look better. And we don't happen to see that cement wall, but everybody else across the pond does. Everyone but us. But, you know, that's the goal, is to have something that climbs that isn't invasive. I'm removing anything that is invasive. But now the only vine it seems I am able to add is one that's also invasive. So it's just disappointing. And this plan initially did have hydrangea in multiple places that we've removed almost all of them. So I will just voice my frustration.
Okay. Noted.
Going back, I did find the certificate of compliance on the registry. So that was issued and recorded.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good. So I think the only other thing to mention is just that all of the other plants on the plan are native, that are within the 100-foot buffer. Are there any questions?
Steve, do you have any other comments?
No, not at all. I had a very good tour with the applicant and Amy Martin on Tuesday. We went over every single one of these items, all 11 items, and I'm completely satisfied. This is an RDA, and my suggestion is that you approve the RDA with this particular plan, very simply.
Commissioners, Eric, Kathy, Marianne, does anyone have any comment?
I have no.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
I wish there were
No, I think we've addressed a lot of them. It's clear that you're going to bring a backhoe along the right side, and then you're going to be doing some jackhammering as well. Not much ledge, so I'm happy with that. And you're trying to save the tree.
Obviously, the silt sock would be installed.
Right, it's on the plan, so
Yep.
we would expect that.
Yep.
Does anyone have any conditions they'd like to place on this project?
I think I have nothing to add, Chris, to our normal conditions. All right.
The one condition I'd like to make sure of, because it's reared its ugly head elsewhere, is in the application of the plaster coat to the walls. It's important because they are working in the 50 for at least some portion of that wall for the plaster coat, as well as the mortaring of the capstone, that some sort of drop cloth should be used to collect any spillage which goes down, and that work should be cleaned up at the end of each day, so that in the event of a storm, you're not getting kind of runoff of cementitious material into the 50-foot buffer.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So this is, because of that condition, this would be a -3 determination. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, it would.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve, to issue a -3 determination for this RDA 21-07 at 559 Jerusalem Road, with the condition that some sort of a drop cloth or plywood base would be placed down to collect any mortar or stucco that would be falling on the ground, and that would be cleaned up at the end of every day so that it doesn't wash into the 50 buffer. And obviously, along with that is no workers go down and clean materials in straight pond. All the additional materials got to be taken off site and not end up anywhere in the buffer area. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm having a motion and a second to issue a -3 determination for RDA 21-07 at 557. I'll do a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Marianne Weatherall.
Marianne Weatherall, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. And I think we have to have a variance as well for work within the 50-foot buffer.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'll make a motion to issue a variance for work at 559 Jerusalem Road for work within the 50-foot buffer, limited to obviously the area of the one wall that's going to be reconstructed and planting in that area. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion, a second, we'll have a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Marianne Weatherall.
Aye.
And Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 4-0. Thank you very much, applicants.
Thank you very much.
If I come up with a vine for you, I'll let you know.
All right. Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, Amy and Jane.
Okay. Our next hearing this evening is for a stormwater permit 21-11 at 10 Ocean Ledge Drive, which was continued from June 3rd, 2021.
Chris, I'll be leaving at 8:15, as I indicated.
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you let me know who you need?
We need Atlantic Coast Engineering.
All right.
Jim Reardon. And they're going to have to help us beyond that. Who else?
Good evening. This is Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can, Jed. Is there anyone else on your team that needs to be elevated or any owner?
Yeah, Matt Pike should be on the Zoom meeting or call.
He's joining us as a panelist.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the third meeting we've had for this project. I'll kind of just run through a summary just to refresh everybody's memory. And I see Jim Reardon's here from Weston and Sampson. So this project goes back a couple months. On the first version of the plans, we did the presentation and we added some trees for mitigation, which we utilized the list provided by Cohasset Conservation Commission. So we added those to the plans. We also added a trench drain at the bottom of the driveway, as well as additional drainage structures. There's a decent amount of ledge on the property. So we really kind of over-designed the stormwater capacity. It can handle over 3 times the capacity of what's required by DEP and the soil type. So with that first revision, we really ramped up the capacity due to concerns, for ledge and other concerns in that general area. And so at that second meeting, we did the presentation, we went over the plans, and it was voted to have a peer review, which Weston and Sampson conducted. We received their memo. We updated the plans based on their memo. We also conducted a test pit to verify the soils, and we chose the most conservative location, which is at the lowest point of the property in terms of topography, down at contour 30 by Ocean Ledge Drive.
Are you able to share a plan with us by any chance?
Sure. Is the plan is up as far as I can see. You're
not sharing.
Okay, so you want me to share the current site plan?
Yes, please.
No problem.
And I hate to do this to you, but we're on a very tight schedule because we're going to lose a commissioner and we're going to lose a quorum. So I'm going to just ask you to rush through, let Jim address it as well, and we'll see where we can get to with this.
Sure.
Jed, you'll have to hit the green share screen button at the bottom, and then.
Yep, I got it.
Thank you.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we conducted the test pit right down by elevation 30, which really is the most conservative location, and the groundwater was about 6'9" feet down. So there is not high groundwater. The soil types were verified in accordance with DEP requirements and geotech requirements. And so we updated the stormwater report in accordance with that. We moved two of the Caltex to the front of the yard versus having one in the back. And that's really it. We addressed all of Weston and Sampson's concerns. We verified with test pit in the most conservative location. And again, the capacity of this in terms of stormwater is 3 times what's required per DEP. At this point, we'll take any questions you may have.
So, Jim Reardon, can I ask you just to confirm that your review was addressed by the applicant?
Sure, Chris. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So we took a look at the materials that they sent us. We had previously had, I think, 7 comments. They had addressed essentially all the comments that we had with the exception of one, and they had addressed it partially. That had to do with the test pit that was just mentioned. The test pit location that is shown is down near the bottom of the proposed driveway, but the BMPs are further up. So you can see as you go up on, if you scroll up towards the house, that there are blue squares on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Those blue squares are the Caltech infiltration systems. There's a call-out box or a call-out next to them with lines coming from the house. So that's the location of the infiltration system. The test pit is further down. Ideally, when you're doing infiltration BMPs and your proven soil conditions with the test pit is as close to those BMPs as possible. We understand that this lot, from the applicant's engineer, that this lot is heavily treed and they had difficulty getting into there. So we certainly understand that. Our recommendation in our most recent version of our peer review is that they conduct test pits, but they could do that. We think, this is our opinion, as a condition of the order as before they actually install the infiltration chambers. And then that way they could be witnessed. They could be witnessed by a soil evaluator, a licensed soil evaluator, and the information could be provided to the town to document the soil conditions and the acceptability of an infiltration system at that location. I will say there's a fair amount of ledge on this site. In addition, there is concern about the soil types. I know the applicant's engineer feels that the soil is okay for the infiltration systems. We're most concerned about the ledge outcrop, because obviously if you install an infiltration BMP up against ledge or stone or something like that, it doesn't really do its job, doesn't provide proper treatment. So it's just a matter of, again, documenting that the conditions are appropriate where they want to put the BMPs in. The one last thing I would say is that if there was a problem at that location, the BMPs that they're proposing could reasonably be relocated, might just require another test bed. Thank you very much. Those are our comments.
And wasn't there one other recommendation you made about the trench extending further up the neighbor's driveway?
So the trench as it's sited now looks to be okay to us.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're fine with the location of that. There was one other minor recommendation that we included in there. And my understanding is that the applicant would intend to do this anyways, but the pipes that sort of wrap around the house to go to the infiltration system, there are a couple of 45-degree bends in those. There ought to be some kind of clean out at those locations, to make it possible to clean out in case debris gets caught there.
Jim, can I ask a question about the soil test and the Caltech chambers? It's my understanding that most of the modeling software can accept percolation tests to actually have real data for the infiltration rates. Would that and from what I've seen of the soil testing that's been done in town, ordinarily it's just looking at soil color to determine the depth of the high water table. Do you think it would be advisable actually to do a percolation test once they've got the hole in the ground there, so that they have real data to put into their model? Because we're looking at a model here. We're not looking, and we're charged with regulating to a performance standard, yet here we are talking about a design standard. I think some of the ambiguity could be resolved by having a percolation test wherever they're going to put a Caltech chamber.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree entirely. This is Steve Ivis.
Yeah, I agree as well. So, Steve and John, I mean, we typically don't push off things like a test pit and a percolation test to when the house gets permitted and it's under construction. Obviously, John, that falls into your purview there. Do you have a feeling on that?
It could be something we could put in early in the permitting process, before foundation is established, so that way it's not later in the project, so they could have some room to move it around.
I mean, I mean, if you've been to this site, you can understand that there's great difficulty in getting to where those chambers are at this point. It's going to be part of a much bigger blasting routine that's going to go on here before they can actually get up there, and that's why the test pit was done where it is.
Yeah, there's no access to the area from the road. at this point. You've got 16 to 20 feet of granite to travel before you get up there. So I think prior to any framework being done, again, we could condition it to the foundation work. So again, it's early in the project, and that approval can be done before any other work can be done.
I would agree with that, John.
And you would
Or
put
if I
that,
could just comment on that. I'm sorry, Marion, go ahead.
you would put that condition in with conservation and not with planning. Is that what you're saying, John?
I'd say you could put it in with conservation, and we would adopt it at building.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's one other thing that wasn't discussed tonight by Jed. He and I had a discussion last week, perhaps, regarding heat tape in the stone trench. I think that would be a very good thing to have actually put on the plan.
Right, that was mentioned at one point.
Steve,
All right.
what is heat tape?
Heat tape, it's the same thing you put on your gutters to melt snow and or ice.
Would you put that near the, could you put that near the 45-degree locations of the clean out even?
Sorry, Steve, I don't put it in my gutter. What is it?
Oh, so it's just a resistant, it's a electrical it's a wide piece of electrical wire that you put a current through. And as you put the current through, the resistance causes it to heat up.
Okay.
Very simply. Oh, that's right. You may not be from New England. Here we are, heat tape.
I am from New England, but thank you very much for the compliment. Yes, okay,
Sure.
Move along.
I have another concern about this trench besides the issue of water freezing in it. It's going to accumulate sediment, and I just wonder if there's some sort of BMP at the base here. I can't quite read what I'm seeing at the bottom. It's a little fuzzy for me, but is there some siltation removal BMP here anywhere in the stone trench beside the driveway? And if so, how are you going to keep it clean? Can you clean out that trench somehow, and how often are you going to have to do that?
So as a part of the O&M for the property, for the stormwater management, for the catch basins, for the dry wells, for the Caltech chambers, and also for the riprap swale, there has to be at least biannual maintenance in order to maintain and properly care for the drainage system. So to answer your question, yes, that's part of the O&M requirement, and it's really puts the onus on the owner to maintain that properly so that the drainage system operates properly.
From a practical standpoint, how do you clean out a stone-filled trench of that length? Are they going to have to remove all the stone every 2 years and somehow capture that sediment that's accumulated and then refill the trench? Is that part of your operations or maintenance plan?
Essentially,
how do you actually do this?
Essentially, I know they use landscaping contractors typically, so that would be a part of the annual maintenance on a twice a year level.
So, twice a year. So you're going to remove all of the stone from this trench every 6 months?
I wouldn't say all the stone. It really just the situation will dictate. I mean, if there's a buildup, depending on the level of buildup, then it will be addressed.
So even if you don't accumulate much sediment in 6 months, sooner or later, the only way to clean this, it seems to me, unless I'm missing something here, is that you would literally have to remove all the stone from that trench. Is that correct?
No, I don't think all of it. I mean,
how much of it then?
The amount of sediment that builds up here should be minimal because this stormwater management system is 3 times the capacity. The amount of runoff that makes its way to the riprap swale is very minimal. And as a result, very minimal sediment should make it there. But worst case scenario, it would be twice a year that it would need to be looked at and addressed if needed. So it's really on a case-by-case basis.
Well, you're also accumulating sediment from uphill here, and not just even on the existing property, but certainly on the property, the flow, let me think about it, south of the house, south of the proposed deck, you're going to have some stormwater entering the driveway, and it is going to be carrying sediment. So it's
very good point. And again, that is part of the O&M, and it would be a part of the condition to properly maintain that, and so that sediment doesn't build up.
Well, I think part of our role here is to also assess the O&M to see if it's practical or feasible.
If could I interject? This is Matt Pike.
Sure.
I just wanted to add to the stone trench itself accounts for 70 cubic feet of the 643 cubic feet of the water that's being captured. So worst case scenario, which is not, as Jed said, this is to be inspected twice a year and cleaned as necessary. But if that trench was to totally fail, you would still be capturing around 570 cubic feet, which is still almost 3 times what's required, even with that stone trench not operational at all.
I don't know. I've been out to that site and I see that there's already erosion. There's erosion along the side of the driveway that looks like the flow is pretty substantial along that driveway. And I just wonder whether some of that water is going to end up on the street and then down to a storm drain and go directly into essentially across the street into Straits Pond and ACEC, and also a water I can't remember the name.
None of the runoff from the driveway is directly directed into the stone trench. If you see, there's 2 additional catch basins with a Cape Cod berm, and that only the emergency overflows would be directed into that stone trench. And at that point, all the sedimentation would already be collected into those catch basins. So the only place where you get an overland flow into that stone trench is through a grassed area, which all of the sedimentation sort of already been taken up by the grassed areas. So it should be seeing little to no sedimentation.
I have a question to boot on top of that issue. I worry about construction period sedimentation into the stone trench. Do you have a construction sequence that tells us how the stone trench will be installed clean during the construction period and how it will be kept clean during the construction period?
So Steve, that's a great question. Being that we're only at the permit phase, we have not addressed that yet.
Well, I think it should be addressed before we close the permit phase. That's what the permit phase is for, to make some very good designs to make sure that we don't have a problem with sedimentation. I'd like to see a construction sequence, Mr. Chairman.
So Steve, are you asking for a construction sequence for the drainage handling during construction? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yes.
I think our rules and regulations actually call for that.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, you need to tell us how you're going to manage that site during construction, because it's an impossible site to manage. I've seen too many of them go bad quickly.
Okay, I don't think it's an impossible site to manage. Let me start with that.
Okay, that's great. Then I think you need to prove that to us in some manner.
I mean, this is a permit set design. If you want us to develop a construction sequence drawing at the permit phase, I think that's above and beyond what's asked for in the regulations. I've never been asked to do that before.
Let me remind you that we're regulating to a performance standard, not a design standard.
Right. That's exactly correct. The performance standard is no sedimentation across Jerusalem Road. That's the performance.
Understood, right? So we have a mulch sock at the entire side of Ocean Ledge where it goes out facing Straits Pond.
Is that on the plan?
Yeah, it's right on the plan.
Can you point that out, please?
That's what's shown right here.
I see a very small amount of sock. I don't see it going all the way
It runs
across.
the entire width except where the access driveway is, which will be the access up to the site.
What about on the other
We
side?
have to maintain access into the site.
I understand, but what about on the other side of the driveway? It's not on the other side of the driveway, anywhere.
That's outside the property limits.
It runs entirely up the existing driveway of the neighboring property, which is on the downslope of the property. It runs entirely up it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it runs along the entire edge of the road, all the way up.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay.
Sure.
So the only thing we'd need to know is that the stone trench goes in towards the end of construction so that it doesn't just get filled up by debris.
Right,
Correct?
exactly. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this
That's
juncture.
all it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But tell us
if-
that. Put it on the plan somewhere.
Yeah, if you could note kind of that on the plans and also note the heat tape on the plans. And maybe even add the note that allows us to require the test pit with a perk test, at the, before foundation is poured or something like that. That's gonna push us, very close to being able to permit this project.
Right.
Sure, that's not a problem.
I apologize that we can't just do this. But I think we lost our quorum for tonight, so we can't really have a vote on this anyway. So if we can ask you just to get those notes on the drawing and come back next time, we'll be in a very good place to vote on this.
Okay, no problem.
Great, thank you very kindly.
Okay, anything else from the commission? In terms of questions?
We have to set a date to continue to.
I was noting what Mr. Ivis said about just erosion controls and keeping it all on the property. I mean, maybe there's some kind of industrial mats or mats for the construction vehicles that you could just keep it on site, because it's going to be you're going to be doing a lot of digging and it's going to be very messy over there. So maybe there's some kind of swamp mats perhaps to just retain everything back there from going down.
I just want to add, there's also a note on the plan to construct a 12-foot wide by 30-foot long entrance apron pad. And there's also a detail, I believe, for that.
In my opinion, that's not big enough, long enough. It should be 60 feet long, and it should be at least 4-inch minus. I'd prefer 6-inch minus. Similar to what's been done over at the 102 Howe presently. I was there on Tuesday as well.
If you could just make that adjustment on that to match what Mr. Ivis recommended, I think that would help us just keep everything retained onto the property, because the big concern is this is you've over constructed it to over 300%, as you've noted, and just keep it all on site.
Yeah, 30 feet is not long enough for a construction entrance. Nor the 1.5-inch stone, no good at all. I'm sorry to say, particularly on a very steep slope like that.
Okay, so Steve, you're requesting a 60-foot, is that, I'm just making some notes here.
Yes, sir, 60 feet.
Yeah.
And 4-inch minus.
Do you have a preferred width?
No. Oh, you're talking about the construction? Yeah, 12 feet is fine.
Okay, 12 by 60, yeah, that's no problem. And you prefer 3/4 stone versus 1.5 inch?
No, I prefer 4-inch stone.
4-inch minus?
4-inch minus, that's correct.
Yeah, 4-inch minus, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, you were saying 3/4.
Well, I didn't know what you wanted. That's fine, we can do that. Okay, so we'll make that update. We'll make the note about the the
Heat
Caltex and doing test pits there.
Test pit and perk test, please.
Yeah, Caltex test pits and perk tests around foundation insulation time.
And the perk data will be used in your model.
Yeah, we'll have a licensed soil evaluator out there, project engineer during
Yeah, that's
during that
fine.
time frame.
Once you've done the percolation test, you're going to have some numbers. Those are going to go into your model. You're going to run the model again. You guys don't use HydroCAD, do you? Use the AutoCAD equivalent? Is that correct?
We use either, really.
Okay.
Just depends
Well,
on the
I know that
situation.
HydroCAD has a module that you can plug in that perk test data to then model your Caltech chambers.
Yeah, we're familiar with that.
Okay. And you're going to use that percolation data that you collect in that model.
Based on the soils we find there, if they deviate from what we currently have in the model, yes, we will do that. If they're the same, then there's no need.
Well, but that would be a remarkable coincidence if the average percolation rate that from the soil map you used was exactly the number you got for your percolation test. That would be highly remarkable. We'd write that up in science.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's speculative to say. I don't know. We'll have to see. Are there any other comments that we need to address?
Just make sure you list the heat tape in the
notes.
Yeah, it's actually called heat tracing.
Right.
We can add that. Yeah.
Jed, I have another question for you.
Sure.
Did you consider putting mulch sock along the access way during the construction period? I had to bring it up because I've seen a lot of problems with sedimentation moving down a steep access way, and that's what you have here. You have a steep access way.
Right. So
off site.
Right at the beginning of every day, the mulch sock will be moved, laterally, in order to get up into the site with the equipment. And at the end of every day, it'll be put back into place so that it's stable. If there's rain, that night, and then each morning it'll be moved out of the way. So we are cognizant of that, and that will be addressed.
Is that on the plan? Because the contractor is not here. That's the big problem with all these public hearings. The contractor doesn't take part in any of these public hearings, Jed. So the contractor doesn't know what's important.
No, understood. And we're aware of the concerns here at the site.
Sure.
And we'll be actively involved with managing the site.
Okay. We'll point to you then.
There would be a pre-construction meeting, I would assume, for this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And our agent would be present at that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Make sure all the conditions are understood.
Right. Thank you, Tom.
So, Jed, are we okay to continue this till July the 1st, which is our next meeting?
July the 1st?
Yes.
That's no problem. Ryan and Leah, you guys good with that? Matt, you good with that?
I'm not 100% sure. I know I'm going away for the 4th. If it's possible, if we could do 4 weeks, if that's okay with everyone. If not, I can try to work around that.
No, that's fine, Matt. We'll keep it at July 1st. Chris and the rest of the commission, we'll make these minor updates, and we look forward to the next meeting, and we can go from there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And Jim, thank you for your input on this. It's not necessary for you to be here on the 1st.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So this hearing's continued until July the 1st.
Good conversation on this one.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. We have 2 other hearings tonight. They're new hearings. I'm going to have to read them into the record, and then we're going to have to continue them because we lost our quorum. The first hearing, the next hearing is a stormwater permit 21-19 at 808 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. project is to raise and rebuild an existing property into a new commercial facility. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 17th, 2021, 6:30, via remote participation on the Zoom platform from applicant Todd Amalang for stormwater permit 21-19 to raise an existing building and construct a commercial garage, office, retail property at 808 Chief Justice Cushing Highway with associated parking, utilities, grading, and infrastructure. This is being continued to July the 1st, 2021 at the request of the applicant. The next hearing, 121 North Main Street, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131.
Looks like Chris is frozen.
My power went down just a few minutes ago. It went down and then came back up. So that, yes.
Do any of the other members have the public hearing notice that they could finish reading?
That would fall to you, Kathy.
Pardon me?
Do you have the public hearing notice that you could resume reading so that you can open and continue?
I'll have to look.
I'm sorry, I do not.
I think that might have been in Angela's email today too.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh. You mean this? Okay, it has to be read by a Conservation Commission member, right?
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Maybe Angela could do it, or maybe you can do it, Steve. I don't know.
Did Chris finish with the raise and rebuild?
Did
he complete that?
I don't think he got to the point of when it would be continued to. He was just getting there.
Okay, so SWP 21-19, 808 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, raise and rebuild is going to be continued to July 1st, 2021. SWP 2120, 125 North Main Street, an addition, will also be continued to 7/1/21. And that may complete the commission's business for this evening.
Actually, we have a point for new topics, and I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, could I just interrupt one moment before we move on? Did you say a time? I didn't hear a time. I just want to make sure because it's to a date and time certain. You could just say 6:30 p.m.
Yes, 6:30 p.m. for both of those. In fact, I would prefer that 6:30 p.m. be for all of the hearings myself, because then you wouldn't have to wait in the middle. That's how we do it in Milton. That's how I just did it in as water commissioner in Norwell today.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure you were continued appropriately.
Sure. Tom, we don't have a quorum here, nor do we have.
It's more or less for you, Steve.
Oh, fine. And I'll listen. I'm happy to listen.
Okay. I noticed that there was, I've been watching the garage construction at 457 Jerusalem Road.
57, okay.
Yeah. And I noticed that there's a very large pile of stone behind the garage that is certainly within the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank and perhaps into the 50-foot buffer. It's about 10 feet wide. It looks like it's about 10 feet high, at least. Looks like it's 50 feet wide. And so if I'm not mistaken, excavation and fill is prohibited in the 100-foot buffer and the 50-foot buffer.
Yes.
I actually don't see how they're going to remove that. Oh, Mary Ann's back.
Hi, I got bumped. Sorry.
So I really wonder how they would even get that out of there now that they built that garage. But maybe it's possible. But in any case, they have quite a pile of stone there. And the only reason I can imagine that they might have stored it is because they have some plan to fill in the 100-foot buffer. I don't recall this property coming before us for a stormwater permit or anything, but it could have been years ago, who knows? I mean, it could have been before I was on the board. So if you just take a look at it, Steve.
Sure. May I ask, Tom, is this the garage that is at least a 2 or 3 bay garage?
Yes.
Perpendicular to Jerusalem Road?
Yes.
It's under construction presently.
That's correct.
Okay, I've noted the garage, but I'm sorry, I didn't notice anything else around it while I was probably moving too fast.
Well, you're not going to see it because unless you come out fishing with me sometime. You can only see it, you can only see it from the water.
I see.
You're invited anytime, Steve.
Okay, very good.
There was a single family home there prior to the garage.
Yeah.
That was removed.
Yeah.
Right, they're building a pool there right now, Tom.
Did you say pool?
There's a pool. I came in late because I got bumped, but what the address is for something?
Yeah,
what?
57.
I think this is the property that's building a garage and a pool.
Really?
And
in the 100-foot buffer?
It was unique because there was a septic tank there that got pulled.
From a septic tank to a pool. What an interesting transition.
It was a lucky break.
Did it come before the commission?
It definitely did.
Oh, it did. How long ago, Mary Ann, do you remember?
A year ago, perhaps.
Okay, before my time.
Yes. All right. But I mean, always check it out. I don't know if we've checked on it lately. So.
Sure.
Well, with it approved to build within the 50-foot buffer?
It is a unique property. Yes, okay. You have to look at the paperwork, but it is approved. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The challenge is finding paperwork.
Exactly in the 50, but it's the septic tank may be in the 100. I can't remember, but it's very unique. It's just it was. And actually, ask Eric. Eric will recall it too. I think he chaired then, and he had a lot of questions on that one.
I believe that property went in front of zoning to improve some of the setback issues they had on the side lot.
Yes.
As well.
And I believe there was a pipe that was draining from the street, and they had to move the public drain. They had to move the storm drain, maybe?
Yes, because that came through the property.
And then there was pressure from the septic tank was pushing on the earth down to the coastal bank. And it was like pushing the coastal bank and the stone wall into the outward. So there was it was just the sedimentation of movement of the earth. There was a bit of several issues.
Wow. Interesting. Thank you.
But again, I think too, they fixed some of the issues, even though some remained. So it was an improvement as to what was there.
Yes. Yes. Did Chris come back? Because I know he was bumped as well.
No.
Okay. So
he's not here.
Are we now doing interim agent update or conservation chair update? Or well, he's not here. So interim agent update. should we move on to, have you covered 44 Border Street at all?
No, I sure have not.
Okay.
44 Border Street, I have some notes here. Well, the Chapter 91 is available. It may be on my email, it may not, but that
Okay.
was evidently sent over, okay, the Chapter 91 permit that people were looking for. The DEP water quality cert is not required for projects under 5,000 square feet. That's what I found out recently. And there is an amendment request in process from Ted Lubitz, gentleman who's managing that project. So that's the update for 44 Border. I guess they're doing another pour tomorrow. Is that correct, John?
Yes, in addition to that, we've contacted the third-party engineer. He will be on site. He will be on site tomorrow. For
actually,
the firm. So I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, it's Deb Keller from Merrill Associates.
Okay, I didn't know who I was going to meet, but we're going to meet tomorrow, and they're going to start the review. And we've sent over copies there. We've received copies of the guardrail, and instructed the engineer as well to give us a final plan drawing of the foundation change and then the surface change on top. So that will be sent into the conservation, I would imagine, in the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
Okay. Say about Ted Lubowitz. I missed that part.
I think he's one of the applicants to the job. So he's been a contact person as well as the site supervisor.
Right. Right. Okay. He's the site manager, basically.
He's going to be on site, you said, for tomorrow when they pour?
Yes, as well as the engineer, the third-party engineer firm.
Deb Keller.
Right.
Yes.
Deb Keller, Keller.
Right. She was in the summary, Keller. Okay. And so are they going to be doing this work in the low tide?
Yes. Actually, they're also the height that they've gone now, because they've come up a few feet. So they have a larger window to work in, because they've, again, come up a couple above the low point. I don't know exactly how many feet, but they're a good 4 to 6 feet higher than where they started.
Right.
What do you mean by that? They're going to be higher up on the wall, do you mean? Or?
Yes, because of the work that they've already done. So the base is completed. So from the base, they're approximately 6 feet up now. So that brings them higher above the low tide mark.
Oh, okay. And do you know what time they'll be starting at, so we can make sure that someone's down there, or just?
I know we're meeting the engineer at 11 o'clock. So I imagine sometime after that, they'll do their pour.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that update. Chris still here? Or Teddy made it back at all?
He made it back, but then he dropped off again.
Oh yeah. I think in my area
he's back again.
Internet is out. That's why. Let me see. I just want to make sure he had questions. Yes. Are you back?
Marianne, it's Chris. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I keep getting bumped out. It says I'm getting some kind of security breach from the Zoom platform.
I had that too. And then I went in through my phone and I didn't have that.
Well, that's what I'm doing now, so we'll see. Okay, so you talked about 44 Border Street. Is that what you talked about so far?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, can I just, I never finished the public notice for 125 North Main Street. I read it, but I didn't finish to say it's continued until July 1st, 2021. So.
Okay.
All right.
Did you hear the 44 Border Street update?
I heard most of it. Yes.
Folks, I'm going to depart you. I think you're all set with your Zoom needs. So I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and I will see you all soon.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks,
Lauren.
Take care.
Thank you.
John, will you be then on site as well with third party engineer?
Tomorrow, yes.
Okay. Chris, do you think you could go down there at 11 a.m.?
No.
Okay.
I can go down there.
Okay. We need a body.
Yeah. 44.
Well, they're just placing block at this time, are they not?
They're just great, but just it's always good to have a second set of eyes.
John, is that not true that they're just placing precast concrete block?
Yeah, but they're also setting some rebar. So anytime that they set any rebar to do any pour, I get notified. And there's an inspection.
I thought that the new design was all precast block.
No, nope, it's the existing block behind there, and they're doing step pours behind that block.
Right.
They're doing step pours behind the block. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
You're talking about the granite block, or you're talking about precast block?
The granite block.
And what's the size of the pour? I thought it was all precast in that.
No, the engineer had them go to a poured system, a step pour system that was going to be stabler and stronger for them.
And,
Okay.
and we'll be getting an amendment request for that with a decent plan rather than a sketch plan that we saw early on.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Then next,
No.
Harbor
We're-
Seawall.
the next item would be the Harbor Seawall. If we could get an update on that one.
As far as I know, it's continuing with a surety that none of the shotcrete is going into the water. It's going on either floating platforms or plywood, as I understand. I was told that by Mr. Joyce on Tuesday.
Okay.
I don't know how many percent finished he is on that project.
All right. And I think we were talking about making a generic notice of intent too.
Yes, we are. We
Putting that together.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
That's in progress, I assume.
Indeed. Yes.
So we don't know how much of the wall he has left to do.
I do not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Chris, do you have anything?
Did you mention to him, Steve, about cleaning up what areas he's already done?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Want to make sure.
Right.
All right.
How about the joyous Lambert's Lane?
Well, I was out there with Mr. Hallen this morning.
Okay.
And I realized that I had gotten an incorrect view of the site from Ms. Hoadley.
Okay.
Completely incorrect as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So I have no further problems with the site as it's being done, as it's being worked on now. I was very, very impressed with the trees that had been planted by the applicant to the rear of the solar array. Those are very large trees planted on granite. And I gave the landscaper an attaboy for their very good plantings. They didn't lose any of those trees. They are very large trees. They serve, in my opinion, to hide the solar array from Ms. Hoadley's viewpoint.
These are new trees, Steve?
These are trees put in a year ago.
Oh, well, what about what we talked about, that area and the clearing of the existing tree line?
Yes, you mean the 20-foot by 20-foot area that was cleared behind the trees? That will be retreed. And the tree line itself is going to be pitch pines and junipers along the stone wall there. Double row, pitch pine one row, and junipers another row. So I have no trouble with that at all. There's a little bit of tree.
Okay, are they going to submit a revised plan?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was there to request.
Okay, so that's a revised planting plan. Okay.
Yes. And then there'll be some trees inside the 50-foot. Regarding the lights, I'm throwing that to building, because I couldn't find anywhere in any of the Cohasset regulations or the bylaws where the Cohasset Conservation Commission had any jurisdiction over lighting, period. It's not there. So frankly, it's not there.
I think there is a section of that it's about let me find it.
Well, I think also too, with regards to lighting, there's really there's no clear path to that. There's no house-like regulations. If a pool is in there, is it the pool lights? So there's really no place that it does kind of address lights in particular. And there's no place that, going back, I can't, talking to some of the other boards too, other conservation boards there, that there's no place that you guys have in the past voted on any lights, not the glare or shyness or brightness of the lights. The base certainly has to be accounted for in the stormwater calculations and whatnot too. But as far as the photo portion of the lights, I don't think that's in the jurisdiction of conservation.
But what about on
John,
protection?
I disagree with you, John.
Right, and wildlife habitat, and we have a wildlife corridor abutting that. I would think that protecting that and making it more native and scenic and reducing the lights for an abutting wildlife corridor would be a concern.
Yeah, but again, going back, where, has there been other house or structures that have been in the area that you've restricted the lights on? Or is it just this one in particular? I just think it's a kind of very gray area to head into, especially, I know like in the planning board on a large home review, that they'll look after lights and get some input on these. Again, these are not like street lights that you would see on overnight and stuff. They are on for use and use only. So it's if they're not using it, it's off. As far as time constraints, it's not like they're on from 10 o'clock to 4 in the morning, 10 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. So I think the use is fairly limited, especially in the residential capacity that he's using them for. There's no public access. There's no business being run from this. Again, it's all private use. The same use that the lights for a pool, for example, which is right next door. And again, those aren't restricted even when they're in the conservation jurisdiction. So to kind of, I just be careful to single out this one project for that reason. If there hasn't been light precedents in the past for any other projects, whether it's, again, pool, home, structures, or whichever is in the, in the area.
And I'm looking at, the wetlands regs, and I don't see any performance standards that say anything about lighting at all. Even wetlands, any of the wetland types or in the wildlife habitat areas, replication areas, etc. I don't see anything, not a word about lighting anywhere here in your own regulations. And that's what we have to go by.
I don't think there is. I think it's a gray area. I think that it may not say that here, but this is a concern if you have a wildlife habitat right next door and we're trying to contain a natural area and preservation of the land. I do think the lights is a critical aspect of that.
Well, there will be a 10-foot high fence along the easterly side of the sport court. Okay, 10-foot high fence, so that will cast some long shadow when the lights are on, I'm sure. So there'd be a large shadow area, which is actually very good for wildlife habitat because the wildlife, the crepuscular wildlife, dusk and dawn, they would prefer to be in those shadows. A 10-foot fence will cast a great shadow, I believe, all the time that the lights are on. So there is a wildlife habitat performance standard that we don't understand that yet, how they will move back and forth along the fence, but they will certainly use the shadow within which to move, in my opinion.
Right. I think there's always an opportunity to look into this. I mean, whether it's this, there's always a new project to look at, and this is a gray area for sure, but I do think we had a bit of jurisdiction to talk about this.
Marianne, I'm back. What just transpired? What did I just?
We are talking.
Was this the lighting? Was this the lighting discussion still?
Yes, we're talking about the bylaws that our regulations don't mention anything about lighting, which
anywhere.
That's true, but I think it's a wildlife corridor, and I think we do have the protection of aesthetics that it's a gray area, and I think every project is different. No project is the same, so we have to look at it differently, and that's why I think we were able to discuss lights here. However, Mr. Ives says that they are going to be having a 10-foot screen, I think it is.
10-foot high fence, actually. It's a fence.
Yeah, but it's a
20-foot light.
It's a solid fence. I think they were referring to the shadow casting from the fence.
That's right. That's right.
How high are the lights off the ground?
20 feet now. We were talking about 15 at one point.
So a 10-foot fence anywhere near a 20-foot light, if the farther away it is, of course, the bigger shadow it's going to. But if the lights are close to the fence, it's not really going to cast much of a shadow.
It'll cast a small shadow, a little bit of a shadow, absolutely.
Well, so without the plan, I don't know. I mean, if the lights are 2 feet away from the fence, it's not going to cast much of a shadow. It's going to.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, but the light arms run out.
I'd like to back up on this because I don't see how building is overruling us on this lighting issue. I mean, we have the commission has discussed items that aren't in our bylaws before because they seem to impact the resource area. And this is a case where the lights, there were 4 lights on the plan. They were discussed during the hearing. It was the contention of the commission as a whole that these lights needed to be restricted because of the impact on the resource area. A resource area that I might say was egregiously destroyed before any permits were ever given. So this is one of those situations where the town should be backing up the commission on this and not telling us we don't have the right to do it. This is this.
Forgive me, Mr. Chairman. How was the resource area changed before the permits were given? I'm sorry, I don't have that history.
There, up until the pool fence was a complete forest of land. It was the 50-foot buffer and the 100-foot buffer. All of that was removed in order for him to put his solar array in. There were no permits taken out. And he didn't come to the Conservation Commission.
Did you fine him?
Pardon me?
Did you fine him for that work?
No, we started this conversation about him getting a permit from the Conservation Commission.
Oh, well, I think you started the wrong way, in my opinion.
Well, that's fine.
His rear big time, and then he would have paid attention to you, in my opinion. Okay? That's what you should have done.
Okay, fine. But that's after the fact, Steve.
I know. I'm well aware of that, but you've got to have these people, if indeed he violated the resource itself, then you have to make him sit up and take notice. And the only way to do that is to fine people. They don't understand. In my opinion.
Steve, at the risk of angering you even further, he bulldozed it. He didn't just clear cut it. He bulldozed it.
Well, he's not angering me. He
Yeah,
should
I
have
know.
angered you folks enough to have taken, you should have taken more action than you did, in my opinion.
Fine.
That's it.
But that's not a constructive criticism of what we did, Steve. In the future, perhaps, but this was not.
I don't have any more constructive criticism for you, frankly. I don't
Okay.
see where the lights. That's my criticism. I don't see where the lights. Where you can take jurisdiction for lights. You tell me.
Well, the lights.
The lights were. Sorry, go ahead, Kath.
I'm sorry. The Conservation Commission can also address the aesthetics of the area. And I remember talking about this particular subject for this property. And we were talking about the aesthetics of the bright lights that were shining all over the property, because they had a sports court. They're proposing a sports court with very bright lights, plus the whole pool area, plus the abutting neighbors, plus the conservation area that was right there. And all of those bright lights were aesthetically too much and unpleasing, and also an effect onto the wildlife. So we actually do, and I don't have the rate with me, but we actually do have the jurisdiction to address aesthetics.
Yes, absolutely, you do. But aesthetics is a human value. It's not a wildlife value at all. First of all.
Well, the lighting.
It's a human value. Aesthetics is a human value. It doesn't have anything to do with wildlife.
Steve, why are you arguing with us on this?
I agree with you.
Because I think you're wrong. That's why I'm arguing. Very simple, Chris. I think you're entirely wrong
Wait,
about the process.
before we spin out here, I don't think we're getting anywhere productive here. We're not. We need to cool off a little bit. I'm not sure we're making any progress.
Just to follow up, like regarding the lights, I'll use Higham as an example. There hasn't been one point in the last 7 years that the Conservation Commission have restricted in any way the lights there. You guys have never restricted lights on any other structures, homes, or properties that are there. And
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, John.
I'm not really sure about it.
Is there a place that you have in the order of conditions? Again, these lights weren't in the order of conditions either. So we're kind of left with, what they're going on. But, do you ever look at the lighting of homes, of sheds, of a flagpole with a light?
We would if it was in the resource area. We certainly would. I can't tell you that we've had you know, I can't tell you if we had a case that where lighting was brought into the resource area.
Are
So-
you calling, let me ask you, let me understand something. Is the 50 to 100-foot buffer a resource area in Cohasset?
Yes,
It's not,
it is.
not anywhere else. It's just a buffer zone. It's not a resource area. It's a buffer.
Okay, a buffer, sorry.
That I have with it. It's not a resource area. It's
All
a
right,
buffer.
fine.
Protect the
Thank you,
resource
Steve.
area. It's a buffer to protect the resource area. It's part of the system.
I had a question. Just Mr. Ivis has suggested bumping this discussion of lighting to planning. What would planning do, John?
Well, if it was in their jurisdiction, they would, you know, they might look at the lighting, but again, it's not in their jurisdiction. So if need be, we could refer to council and get their opinion on that. I just think we're headed into the area of trying to regulate something that isn't, you're not sure of that it's in your purview to do this. Whether it is, or maybe we could, again, run it by council and get their opinion on it, to at least to see if it's worth to go further into it.
And John, you might want to ask council if there's a performance standard for lighting that the town could adopt. That might be the right way to go.
That's a great idea. We should be
Right.
motivated
Yeah, that may
to
be something in the
addressing it
future.
rather than arguing about what we've already done.
Exactly. I want to solve it rather than argue.
Yeah.
But Steve, yes,
In front of us.
say that again, Marion, you broke up.
I said that won't solve what we have in front of us. Like,
that's right.
We can go to council regarding this, but we still have this problem.
The problem I have with the aesthetics issue is that we don't know what the lighting is going to look like from any of the other neighbors yet. The project isn't done, so we don't know. We don't know whether the gentleman sleeps at 8 o'clock at night, and whether it'll be turned on, turned off most of the time. We just don't know any of those that piece of information, nor do we know the intensity of the lights either. I was told that he's going to use the second tier down, not the very, very bright LEDs, but a second tier down LED as well.
And I believe they're dimmable as well, too.
Yeah, 100% dimmable.
Yeah, but that's not. But none of that's enforceable. If you're saying once the lights are up, you can't enforce that. Oh, he's got the lights on too bright, or he didn't dim them enough.
That's
right. He's more than 4 cans. 4 cans is what we were talking about originally, and it looks like I think there's 8 or 9, maybe even more than that. It's a lot. And of course I would bet it would affect the neighbor with that many cans up.
We haven't,
and it would affect the wildlife.
We haven't seen the plantings yet. I would hold my opinion until my personal opinion until we see the plantings and actually go to the neighbor's site and watch the lights go on and see whether you can even see the lights through the plantings.
No one in this town will ever make them remove the lights later on. This is a now or never situation.
Well, maybe between now.
You don't even want to have a difficult conversation with them about what was agreed to. And you know, I don't get it. You basically just want to put these lights in, and that's the end of it. That's how you feel about us. You don't care about conservation. You do not care about Cohasset conservation.
Chris,
come on.
He's talking. I'd love to hear what he has to say further. Because
Well,
nobody's ever told me that in 35 years. I don't care about conservation.
This is not productive. This is not productive.
Let's wrap up this discussion. I
Hey,
think that
Tom, 5 weeks has not been productive in this town. 5 weeks with the Conservation Commission has not been productive. And now we're arguing.
And you're the biggest problem.
We are supposed to get support from the agent and support from the town, and we're not getting it.
Chris,
I recommend
just a little bit of history too. The neighbor has been brought in several times on this project for the location, the movement of the lights. the street, the buffer between her property and there. So there has been some involvement. It's not been totally unnoticed or totally unaddressed too. In the
Steve told her
meantime,
yesterday that she should request from the commission an amendment to the order of conditions. So now what's
That's
that?
exactly correct.
Chris, just a moment.
So let's do it.
Chris, just a moment. That was prior to going out in site and viewing the activity live. So
Right.
based on new information, there was a different recommendation when we're out there in site. So it's not anything there. It has to be put in context to what he was said. Again, in the meantime, between now and your next meeting, we could at least I could talk to town council about the light issue to clear up the gray area to see if it's something that can be pursued or not. I think that would be the way to go, first of all. And then second of all, if there is a change you wish to make or add to it, then that could be a later discussion as to a way that this might come under your jurisdiction or look at in a cleaner way or addressed in the bylaw regulations. So I know we are left with what was here, but again, this isn't something that has just been fluid or stable. It's been fluid. We've looked into the matter, we addressed it personally. We've gotten the information from neighbors. We've got the information from the client, and we put together a finding and went over and observed there, and that information was brought forward. So it wasn't that we're changing our mind or flip-flopping. Again, we're just basing our decisions on what we see and have seen in the ground there. And so at least we have a place to go going forward. If you can hold off on the light, we can get some more information on it.
All right, I'd like to be part of that conversation, please, with town council.
Yeah,
I'm a scientist. I give you opinion based on the facts that I see. The facts that I saw from Ms. Hoadley were entirely different from the facts I found on the ground this morning. That's all I'm saying. I was very surprised.
Have you notified Ms. Hoadley?
I have not. I have not had the time. I'm sorry. I had a water commission meeting at 4:30 today. I'm a elected official in my town.
Right.
And I have a full-time job too.
Guys, let's just stop there. We have one more issue to cover.
Yeah. I have two others after that, please.
I might have to cut out because my battery is just about ready to die.
Okay,
me too.
But I'll hang on as long as I can.
Let's see. We talked on January 10th, not January. We talked on June 10th about Dolan Lane, and we were going to get an update. And let's see. June 10th, we talked about Dolan Lane and that there was a stop work order, maybe, or something about the driveway. Or we're going to move the driveway, I think it was. But let's get just an update from Mr. Ivis, and then let's talk.
I visited there on Mr. Stasko's request on Tuesday morning. I think it was Tuesday morning. Days run together. And Mr. Stasko still did not have his erosion controls in the right location. So I said, you're not going to do any more work until you have your erosion controls in the correct location. Then we had a discussion about how he threw about the stumps into his back lot area. I thought they were supposed to be consolidated. He thought, oh, it's just fine. They're thrown willy-nilly. He also started developing I would call it a woods road by putting down a lot of chips on the woods road. I told him that he should cease that activity entirely. He did not have the permission to work past the proposed tree line. And he gave me a lot of problems with that. Came to the assessors, asked about him owning property and being able to do what he wanted on his property, etc. I said, you heard me. You're not going to be allowed to do anything more until you get your erosion controls in the right place. And that's the update to date.
All right. based on that information, so we'll check out again. I assume that you may go back there in a week or so, or next week, to see if the erosion controls are there. And if if you expect
like a 3-year-old, I would check again and again and again and again and again. This guy is a 3-year-old, acting like a 3-year-old, and he will not take direction from anyone.
Okay, we can't
be obvious
like that.
And,
so let's
and it's just a waste of our time to watch him all the time, in my opinion.
So what would your recommendation be on next steps then after that?
I don't have one. Sorry.
I think we can make it well, I want to say it might be 6th or 7th site visit again next week. I was out there with myself Tuesday and did contact him. He has approached the town for access through another area of the site aside from the driveway. I told him no, that he had to go back to the conservation because his only access is through the road right now. That he has permission through. So again, we just have to keep monitoring. If we want to take the next step to find him, we could do that. Again, it has been a difficult process. We just, again,
at the least,
we're trying to stay at it and continue to write, again, inform the town manager as well. So it's a hot spot, and there's going to be other difficulties coming up. So all we can do is kind of stay with it and keep the enforcement up.
Right.
John, it's hard to imagine another house on that. If that thing's 10 feet wide, I'd be surprised, that driveway.
It is exactly 10 feet.
I get up there and turning my truck around was virtually impossible.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
So another house at the top of that thing, it's hard to imagine.
Yep. And, currently, even as they configure the driveway, when it goes in the proper place, if you had a trailer, you couldn't turn into the driveway with a trailer. There's just,
that's right.
But, again, from a practical point, those are all concerns that I have and many other people.
And it's long enough, so I would imagine you would have to text your neighbors to say, "Hey, I'm coming in, so don't try to come out until you see me go past, or I'll send you a text when I'm home."
Yeah, there are issues between pullovers and turnarounds and with the travel. Yeah.
Very, very dysfunctional.
And I understand there are 2 other lots on the same driveway, open lots that he owns. Is that correct, John?
I believe there's a total of 3.
Yep, total of 3. So there's 2 extra.
3, no.
Total of 3. Okay.
Additional lots, yeah.
Is
one short of a subdivision?
Right.
Right. So that's a good question.
But there's still a common driveway standard that might need to be met. So
yeah, they just renamed or renumbered the lots on that driveway. So Mr. Brewer is number 12. This one is number 18. The house that's built on that side is number 24. The house that's built on the other side is number 25. And there's a number 31 that will be at the end of the roadway as well.
That's part, because we've had a subdivision slide in, which on a property, and Tom knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that'd be Ocean Ledge, which was hard to imagine how that was done. Again, you've got a 10-foot wide driveway, nowhere to turn around. And clearly it looks like a subdivision when you get up there. I think there's 4 houses up there. Is that right, Marianne? I think it's 4.
3 and an existing house. Maybe that's on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so final decision on Nolan Lane is that we will check in with it, let's say one more time, and then after that we talk about like next step enforcement. Okay. Anyway, okay, so now we're at documents requiring signatures or approval. Do we have any, Steve, that we should know about that we need
not at the present time. I've been having lots of problems with the OneDrive and still being able to, I just actually, as you heard earlier tonight, I just got access to some of Jeff's material, not all of it, but only some of it. And so I will be writing out some orders and some, I think at least an RDA or so in the next week or so. Okay.
48 hours. Anybody? Anything else?
Yes, I've got there's two items that I want to discuss. One is the property. John, did we lose John? Is he here?
Yes, low battery, but still here.
Okay, 256 North Main Street. We talked about it the other day. I noticed today that they cut a driveway into that property. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Yeah, that was, they have not done any foundation work yet. So I don't know whether they're setting for septic or not there, but I did go by there and I haven't seen anyone to talk to yet.
Okay. The other one is 219 Sawyer, I believe is the address.
Yeah.
Something about someone dumping on town property.
No, they did not dump on town property. They built lawn onto town property that is helping keep their lawn, helping to extend their existing lawn. Now, I'm told by Jeff Hassett, who I spoke with today about that project, they're looking for a stormwater permit. And I said, I wouldn't even been considering a stormwater permit until the trespass on town property was resolved to the town's satisfaction.
Well, Steve, to follow up on that, the stormwater permit application might be the place to issue the restoration for that work too. So we might use that to our advantage.
Sure.
If that would help.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help with that. And I made some recommendations for how it should be restored and what should go back in my email of last, I don't know, sometime over the weekend.
So Steve, I'm interested to understand at 76 Lambert's Lane, you suggested we start fining immediately, but here you're saying it's kind of okay to couple it with going forward with permits. Could you explain to me the difference?
I didn't say it was okay to go forward with permits at all. Did I ever say that? No,
John just said there was an opportunity.
John said
it was an opportunity, and
John
you agreed.
Yeah, it may be an opportunity, but I want to hear from town council and the town administrator first as to what they have to say about it. Obviously, you don't have a policy for trespass on town property, do you?
Not the Conservation Commission doesn't.
Okay. Well, that's why I wrote the email. I asked the question, what is the town policy for trespass on town property, particularly trespass of materials, soil materials?
Steve,
okay, we didn't know you wrote that email.
The email was sent to you.
I know. Town council though?
Absolutely. Town council, John, and the town administrator were in the top graph, and you were all copied on it.
I think maybe to kind of follow up with what Steve said, if they're coming back in front for a stormwater permit for a pool or whatever the thing is, maybe a letter could be sent prior to that anyway, just to make them aware of our concerns. And then
I actually sent a copy to Jeff Hassett, so they are well aware of our concerns.
Yeah, and maybe we could do the same thing, make sure that it goes directly to the owner too, so that they're aware of it too.
Is this?
I know Jeff probably told them.
Oh, sorry, John.
No, just to see.
Jeff told them, and he told me that material was put on the property by two owners before them. That's what he told me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's what he told me.
We've looked at the aerial photos, and we know within about 13 months when that was done.
Right.
So that's easily verified who actually did it.
Right.
But in any case, if there was an order of conditions there, it goes with the property.
has nothing to do with who owns it in a sense, right?
Right.
Right.
Travels with the property. So,
Right.
No, I was just curious, Steve, in that email, I don't remember who was CC'd. I did receive it. Thank you. Did you CC council and did they respond? That's what I wanted to know. It's council.
CC'd council,
Uh-huh.
not respond.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you. So next steps on this, should we have do you want to bring them in for a show cause or?
I would like to ask the town administrator what the policy is. Again, for the third time, what is the policy for trespass on town land?
Okay, policy. I'm sorry, Miss. Okay.
I'd like to know that directly from the town administrator.
I mean, do you really need a policy? It seems like it's
No,
illegal.
I'm just going to
it's
ask
against
him.
the law. I mean, the policy is trespass. That's
right.
illegal.
That's the issue, and I want to know what he wants to do about it. What
in your experience, Steve, is it different in Milton versus what's in Norwell on passing that you've experienced, that you've seen in policies?
Yeah, it changes from town to town. Absolutely.
Okay.
You mean some towns might tolerate something like this?
No towns tolerate it. Some towns impose fines immediately and then require restoration. Some towns do not impose fines.
So if we had a show cause hearing and we found that he was in violation, we would be
in violation
of
of what?
bylaws to fine him. Is that?
I don't know.
Or at least give him some time to correct the problem, and if he didn't do it by a date certain, then we would then start levying daily fines. Is that?
I don't know if he's in violation of the bylaws. I know he's in violation of
general law.
General law, probably, and there is no such. I've noted that there's no such thing as adverse possession on town property. Okay, that was decided by a court case over in Hingham, and had been landing his helicopter for over 20 years on a certain site on town property, and the SJC said, "No, sir, you can't do that. You can't adversely possess town property, period. You can't do that." So the question is what the town would like to do first. And I'm not sure the Conservation Commission is the proper body to even consider it, frankly. I would
except that there was probably an order of conditions when the house was built,
right?
Which probably has the property lines on it and a limit of construction.
Quite possible.
We have to pull two things: get the policy and pull the order.
Sure.
Okay. And then we probably need some kind of notice to them, which you sent to Jeff Hassett to alert them to this.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully maybe we can pull them in 2 weeks when we have all this information. Hopefully we'll have some information before us to better discuss this with them.
Sure.
I think, team. Anybody? Okay. We have next steps though, at least here.
Okay. I don't have any other 48-hour issues, but I do want to just circle back because of my loss of connection. For 44 Border Street, there was a question earlier that whether or not they had a Chapter 91 for that property. I don't know, and what was the other one? A clear water. I don't have my notes because I had to go outside.
DEP
the clear water certificate.
Yeah, Chapter 91 they have, and I think they sent it to me. And number two, the DEP water quality certificate is not required for anybody working less than 5,000 square feet. And did you hear that, Chris?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. And they're coming to us with an amendment that will show the new structural concrete lifts. So that we'll be seeing that whenever they get it finished. A better plan than we had, that was shown a month ago or so by that little sketch plan by the structural engineer.
Right.
Okay.
So they will be coming to us with that as an amended, a request for amendment to the order of conditions.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on 48 hours?
Nope.
Okay. Does anyone want to next steps close this meeting? I would make a recommendation. Anyone?
I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Do we hear any ayes?
Second, someone second it.
Marianne, Weatherald, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Berrigan, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That's it.
Okay.
Well, we can't leave without saying goodbye to Marianne and
Right.
saying what a marvelous colleague she's been, and diligent, penetrating questions. I really admire you, Marianne, for what you've done.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. I admire all of you and your dedication and an esteemed volunteer board and your commitment. And I hope we all stay in touch very much.
We will miss you very
When
much.
when your cold gets better.
Yes. When this like great disappears. Yes. And I think
None of us have an
Angela,
immune system anymore.
and Angela to know I really appreciate all that she does and for the staff too. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Y'all make it worth it to be a volunteer. I hope everyone